Hey guys, welcome back to the Got Fishing Podcast. This is episode 8 already, and we have an excellent podcast for you today. This one I've been really excited about having. We have with us Lincoln, and Lincoln is the owner, operator of the Montana Fly Fishing Lodge. So as many of you know, I am a Montana native, born and raised, live over here in the great state of Idaho, but when I got introduced to this lodge and learned a little bit about it. There's a lot of opportunities in Montana for sure. And there's a lot of spots that people already know about. So when you go out on these blue ribbon fisheries, one of the things I think that I hear people say is kind of the disappointment in how many people are out on these rivers, enjoying the same thing that these people are doing. But this lodge offers something completely different. It's got itself a little secret spot in Montana. It's got amazing fisheries, different rivers to be fishing on. And so I'd like to introduce Lincoln, owner of the Montana Fly Fishing Lodge. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Lincoln.
Hey, glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our special spot in the world here.
Yeah, well, it definitely is special. And so let's just talk a little bit about how this lodge came to be. I remember that I believe it was in the family for a while. So why don't you talk us through kind of how it went from a family owned piece of land to where it is today?
Well, that's I'll give you the short version. The property's been in the family since the 1940s. I was left part of it from my grandmother when she passed in the early 90s. And I happened to be in a special place in my life at the time, and was left to me and my sisters and some cousins, and they all wanted to part with it, and I didn't. So I was able to buy them out, and we built the lodge at that time. I ended up building most of it myself, not by design, but it was kind of forced to, just because of the as many people could probably sympathize, getting contractors to show up in an orderly fashion is a big challenge. So I ended up building the place pretty much myself. Some of the big components like the logs, scribing and all that was left to a pro that works out of Billings. The river rock on the fireplace was left to another local guy here in Absaroka that's a really good mason. But most of the rest of the stuff, mechanical room, I had some help with. It was trying to figure out how to do that was going to be a huge challenge. But all the rest of it is myself, and the other buildings on the property is things that we put up just as time's gone on. It was our main family residence for about 8 years, from 2000 to 2008. And then we ended up moving to Bozeman for a few years, and now back to Billings, and now back out here to the property. We were operating it as a destination wedding venue for about 12 years. And that's where I kind of got introduced to fly fishing as a business, I guess, if you will. I mean, for me, born and raised here, Montana boy, it never occurred to me literally to have somebody take me fishing. Just because I know all the waters intimately. And it's just kind of how I my view on life. I just go fishing, and if there's friends that can take time to go with me, that's great. But through these destination weddings, there was always some cadre of guests that were coming that wanted to fly fish while they were in Montana. And I was, it seemed like all the time, but, about every group had a few, and I would get them hooked up with a couple of local outfitters that I'm actually working with still today. get them on some water here, depending on the time of the year they were here. And they would always come back and say, man, you need to operate this as just a fly fishing lodge. This is terrific. You're in the middle of heaven and that type of stuff. So, and we just happen to be in a little corner of Montana, that for whatever reason, it doesn't get the throngs of fishermen like you get west of Livingston and then out on, the Bighorn gets a lot, which is along the southern border with Montana, kind of east of us. So between Livingston and Bozeman, or Livingston and actually Cody, if you stay along the mountains like I'm going to describe, the Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness runs the east slope of it, runs all the water coming out of that, runs into the Yellowstone on this side, all around our lodge here, several different streams. And the west side runs in Paradise Valley, which is the kind of the upper reaches of the Yellowstone outside the park. And, another facet or another face of the Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness is essentially the east entrance to Yellowstone Park, where Soda Butte Creek comes down and Lamar Valley takes the water off of that edge of it. Just to kind of show you where we're at. These are the highest mountains in Montana, and the water doesn't get real cold until you get all the way out to we're running into the Yellowstone. Or it doesn't get real warm like we've seen in 2021.
Right.
So we get unfettered. There hasn't been hoot owl hours where they restrict fishing times upstream of Absaroka in my lifetime. So,
well, I think that's really, you said it great. That's what makes it such a special place is the rivers, the creeks. When year did you decide to convert it from a wedding destination over to a fly fishing destination?
We started doing marketing to fly fishermen about 2019, and destination weddings. There are just people who get married within like a 12-month period. They decide, and it's really for them, and they get married. But a lot of destination weddings are 2, 3, 4 years out. And so we, this past year in 2022, we still had a couple of destination weddings that had been booked for more than 3 years. But
wow.
So we're no longer doing destination weddings. We have no longer have any on the books going forward in the future. So we're strictly focused on fly fishing, and really have been focused heavily on fly fishing since 2019. But that's kind of how that happened in the transition. It was just a transitional period we had to go through to not upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Yeah, right. Well, so now that you're a full fishing destination, tell us a little bit about when an angler comes to your lodge. What I liked about it is a lot of these places we go, you're doing kind of the same style of fishing every day, whether that's getting in a drift boat, walking and wading, oftentimes fishing the same section of river, maybe the same river, but a couple different sections, where at your lodge, there is a whole buffet of options to pick from. Walk us through a typical day or a typical few days at your lodge and the opportunities to fish and the styles of fishing.
So, and that's one thing I think, when we were looking at, how do we set ourselves apart from all the lodges that that are in Montana? And I have to say there are between Livingston and Cody, I can think of one other lodge, but it's just right at Livingston, essentially.
Right.
There are no fly fishing lodges all on these slopes of the Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness. And, as you get closer to the mountains, the streams are smaller. So the rivers that I fished as a kid are all these walk wade rivers that are around here. So there's the East Rosebud and West Rosebud, Rock Creek, West Fork of the Stillwater, that offer just kind of the best walk wade fly fishing. All these streams are blue ribbon, and they're all, and I happen to be in a special place where that's concerned because, in Montana, they have the stream access law that allows people at public crossings to fish along the rivers on they stay within the high water mark. And so for a quarter mile or so from each of those, or maybe a little bit further, those public ag crossings, you'll get people that fish the water there a little bit, just locals generally. But to go for miles between these accesses, 10 miles, 20 miles, that's all private property, and they generally don't allow people to go fishing on the Stretch River unless you know them or whatever. And that just luckily happens to be my case where I know everybody in the countryside around here, basically. And particularly people who have property on the river, because it's not often that you find those stretches get sold, for one thing, and the ownership changes families somehow or whatever. It's just real rare. And so I know a lot of people and have private access to all these streams, long stretches. We typically try and stay to 1.5 miles or so if we're doing a walk wading day with the client. There's a lot that goes into, not a lot. I mean, we take into account several factors in determining what stretches of water a person might be best suited for. One being obviously their mobility. So we do have guests that come and they want to just fish from a boat, whether it's a fly fishing outfitted raft or a regular Mackenzie style drift boat. But there are people, and this is where I think we really have a leg up on other lodges, is if you're staying for several days, we can put you on different water and different types of fishing, walk wading versus in a raft where, the water is undulating quite a bit, to the Yellowstone or the Bighorn or the Shoshone where it's fairly flat water, Mackenzie style drift boat fishing. So let's say you come for a 4-day or a 4-night, 3-day stint here. Depending on what you would like, the weather, the water runoff volume, and the hatch, which we leave to the guides and the outfitters to determine essentially on a daily basis which waters would be fishing well that day. And so we'll take we try and encourage people to experience the different flavors of fishing. Even if it's on the, just out here flatwater fishing on our ponds, we got a little 1 acre and a 5 acre on the other side of the river that fish really well. I mean, they've got big trout in them and stuff, but that's one type of fishing. And we have the walkway streams here in the river and in the different styles of, walk wading. You got to be in fairly good shape. That's why we keep them to 1.5 miles, the little stretches. On the drift boats or the fly fishing raft, we just, depending on the stretch of water, the length would change, because like the Stillwater and the Boulder, the gradient is a little bit more generally over the miles than it is like the Yellowstone, for example. And you can go further in a day of fishing. So the ultimate trip for me is so people can experience what we truly have to offer is one day spend time on these small streams. And if you're not familiar with it, or, if you haven't seen a small stream like this where all the fish are where the fish are not all Harvard educated, probably been caught more than once, that
Right.
type of thing. All the fish in these streams around here are country bumpkins, if you will. The fact that the streams around here, the walk wading streams, a little different than you might find other places, because you get zero pressure. I mean, we'll have people that they'll be fishing all day and never see any. They'll be fishing all through 2, 3, 4 days and never see anybody else, not one other fish.
Wow.
Even on the Stillwater and the Boulder, our guys take rafts down the water, and a busy day, you'd have to hit a weekend day in the middle of the summer to have 2 or 3 other rigs at the access point or something but there's a bunch of different ones. And you may see another raft, or maybe a 2 if you're sitting at lunch or something like that, and they've happened to float by. It seems, relative to like anything upstream of Livingston or west of Livingston, where you'll have hundreds of boats, each with 2 anglers in them. You'll wait 30 minutes to an hour and a half to put in to get your boat in the water, that type of thing. It is so different from that, it can't be compared. It's like fishing all by yourself in the middle of the mountains or something, relatively.
Right.
So, and then, we want to get people not only on the walk wading experience. The Stillwater is a fun river and it fishes extremely well. And then maybe we do a stretch of the Yellowstone. We do them in 9 to 13 mile stretches, depending on the gradient of the stretch. And the fish downstream of Livingston are generally quite a bit bigger than the ones upstream. So you'll catch nice browns in the 18 to 24 inch range on a daily basis. So what I would recommend for people is to have 3 days of fishing so you can experience one of each of the different types of waters. And if you're one of, if there's a lot of people that like this, fish the same stretch and that type of thing each day, obviously we can do that. And if it's fishing really well, that's fine. I mean, if you're such that that's strictly the sole aspect of what makes it a good vacation of fishing for you, by all means. I mean, there's no pressure to go to one place or the other, particularly if the weather or the hatch and the fishing conditions are generally the same, or can be equal. So,
well, I've been to a lot of lodges. Like I said, I've fished a lot of places in Montana, and what you have is very, very special. Top 1% type stuff in Montana, especially to have the access that you have to these different waters, and to have them so untouched is really special. So you mentioned a lot of really cool ways, to fish around the lodge, but one of the things you didn't mention was the opportunity for people to get on horseback and ride into some of these creeks and special places that you have. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Oh, definitely. Our outfitter has, not only does he do, if there's somebody would like to do some horseback riding, trail riding around the property up onto the plateau or whatever, we definitely, their guide can take them on horseback up the West Rosebud, up the East Rosebud, on private property or up into the Forest Service. We have access and the ability to take people into both.
Wow.
We don't do it a lot. Our outfitter that helps us with that would love us to do more. It's just, it isn't everybody that's up for that. So, but he's game and so are we, and he keeps his horses in the fields on the other side of the river. So.
Well, again, really special place to go fishing. Want to get into a little bit of the lodge and some of the accommodations. But for an angler, I mean, just a plethora of opportunities, whether it's walk and wade, getting out on a drift boat in some of our epic rivers like the Yellowstone, the Bighorn, but then the opportunity also to go horseback riding into some of these remote areas. I think really, like I said, it makes it a very, very special trip and something that you just can't go to many lodges and have that kind of variety. So I think you just on a 3-day fishing trip, like you were mentioning, the opportunity to have that kind of diversity. And also, be fishing in a spot that other people haven't been fishing. And I think that for the people that are listening to this, you either have experienced it or you haven't experienced fishing in some of our Montana and even some of the Idaho waters where, yes, you are on a really beautiful piece of water, but when you're sitting at the boat ramp for 30 minutes as people are unloading their drift boats, it's not the experience that you're looking for. It's not the river run through it that Montana, that kind of style of fishing that Montana does offer or used to offer. Now, with our popularity, things have definitely changed. And then once you get your boat in the water, you are fishing behind 20, 30, 40 other fishing crafts that are beating the water. And so, yeah, you're catching, you're either not catching or you're catching fish that are Harvard educated, and they're few and far between. And I really like what you're offering because an angler can go there, have a lot of success. Like you said, a lot of opportunity to do different styles of fishing. So yeah, very, very cool. The other thing that I want to mention is that you have taken the time to be in Orvis and Dorse Lodge. And with that, an angler, you're providing a lot of the gear. So anglers that are coming to your lodge, although most, I think, anglers do bring their own gear, there are people that are getting into this sport. And I think that your lodge offers a great opportunity for those that are, diehard anglers looking for a special experience, but also a great opportunity for those that are just getting into fly fishing and want to learn a little bit. You've got rods and gear for people, but you also have a casting pond. Tell me a little bit about why you chose to go down that path and the casting pond, and a little bit about what people can expect when they come onto the property.
Well, that's one of the facets of trying to separate us from, provide additional way for our lodge and our experience here to stand out. And that is exactly what you say. I mean, on arrival night, or afternoon, depending on when you get in. We do casting lessons. Our casting instructors are master certified fly casting instructors, and they'll set you up in the grass to start with, and then on the casting ponds. And then, if you're real new and haven't had a chance to fish before, we'll set you up we'll take you over to the river here and start experiencing what it means to mend your line instead of just talking about it and trying to show yourself show you how to do it on the grass. And then one of the things I really like that we made a concerted effort to do, and that is the vernacular that our instructors use. We have made a special effort to ensure that our guides the next day that take you out are speaking that same language, not just generally, they're actually literally the same vernacular, so that you make that connection and you're talking about the same thing from one day to the next. And that's each night. So if you're, if you're a day or two into your trip and you want to go out that night to the casting, the people that are there for casting instruction, by all means, you're totally welcome. We'll do those sessions outside of the other lodge activities that are going on. So either before or after dinner, before or after, if there's entertainment that night or whatever. Yeah, and one of those facets for separating us is providing, so like I mentioned, the casting instruction, but then also in talking with the outfitters that I know and the guides, some things that they've seen is fishermen who come and they're not outfitted the way they should be. I mean, we include when you get here, you'll get a little gear box, and in that gear box is going to be a sun shirt, which most people forget, believe it or not. And there'll be boots, and top of the line Sims or Orvis boots, and and then obviously your rods and reels and all the line and tackle that you would need is included. And that piece of it was, we heard differing opinions on how well that would be received. Because, like you said, Brian, a lot of people bring their own stuff. But one thing that I know about the rivers around here, and in general, most fishermen, it would feel like they know that also. But felt-soled boots in these waters are a safety issue as far as I'm concerned. You need that here, or some kind of combo where you have felt in the middle and maybe a Vibram around the outside of your sole. It is, and then there's the issue of somebody bringing their own felt sole boots. We actually don't allow that. We just outfit them with our own felt soled boots. And so it initially started to where it was a safety issue more for the lodge to make sure people had the right equipment when they're here. And then, having neoprene socks and wading boots combo if it's in the warmer months. And obviously, Orvis waders, we just launched into having our own inventory of top of the line. Essentially, most years it's brand new equipment for people to use. And the one thing that I think that of us providing the equipment was the comments that we received from customers was the safety aspect. Some people bring boots, they wouldn't have felt soles, and they wanted to wear them. And what I do is I actually ask them to wear a pair of our boots in the river out here and compare them side by side. And believe it or not, there's actually that's been very well received for people to see what I mean if they haven't had a chance. A lot of rivers that have slate rock bottoms and different things like that. Some people may have not experienced trying to cross these streams on cobble rock and that. And so it was important and very well received. And if, a lot of people have their own rods, solids, 100% probably have their own rods, and you get 60 to 70% bring them anyway, even though they know we have our equipment. But of those that bring their own rods, they appreciated being able to take out, that year's Orvis rod or something like that. Some of the Helio stuff that they may not have had the opportunity to use, and just try them out. And that's been very well received also. So that's been great.
Well, I'm one of those anglers that brings my own gear, obviously, but it's nice to be able to try the latest and greatest. And, I think one of the things is we're always seeing people wearing different waders or different boots or casting a different rod. And, I'm not going to go spend $200, $300, $600, $700 to go try that, so it's really nice that you're providing that opportunity and probably have convinced a few people to switch up their boots or to try a different brand, giving them that opportunity. So
that kind of dovetailed into having our equipment, having the equipment here for people, dovetailed into a conversation I had with a local fly shop owner down in Billings. And he was talking about Orvis and the fact that there was an Orvis rendezvous in Missoula a few years ago. And so I ended up going to that and meeting some people there. And, it was really fun. They were super nice. And I love the family-owned business that is. That's kind of right up my alley, so to speak. And so I come back after that and talk to my wife. And we looked at the bookings that we had and that we were getting at that time. And a lot of them are people from the East Coast. So we'll get anywhere from Maine to Florida, for whatever reason, a lot of people from DC. And Orvis's reputation on the East Coast, and I think generally as a brand, is better known on the East Coast for whatever reason. I mean, they're based out there,
Mm-hmm.
but and so we thought it would be, not only are we providing top of the line gear and stuff, and we have Orvis stuff here anyway, but to have that additional trust factor, et cetera, that was built into the Orvis reputation, it was a perfect. It seemed like a perfect business decision to have Orvis out and see how we compare to other lodges, see if we were of the quality of place that they're looking forward to have on their roster, so to speak. And they had a wonderful time while they were out here, and it's just been a 100% great opportunity here. So
very cool.
That's kind of how we got into that.
Just another aspect again that makes this experience so special. Really trying to think of everything to make it just a first class experience from top to bottom, which does lead me to a couple other things that I want to talk about, and one of those is actually the lodging. You touched on a little bit that the lodge that you're in right now is something that basically you helped handcraft and build yourself, which I think is pretty cool. So I want to learn a little bit more about that, and also what we would call glamping or luxury tents that you have along the creek. I'm familiar with those just from being from Montana, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about that because those are really, really cool. And I like how you have them set up right there on the creek where it's private. So tell us a little bit about the accommodations that people can expect while they're there.
So we have 4 suites in the main lodge, and they are out. 3 of the suites have double queens in them, and 1 has a single king in it. So depending on the guest mix, it may or may not fit, like in a single king. Or what we found is most fly fishermen, if it's 2 gents or a man and a wife, those accommodations fit fairly well. I was looking around. I wanted to have an experience for people that would extend our accommodations capability here, but provide something that was a little bit closer to nature, provided a feel of having a separate cabin, if you will. Some people like that as separate from the main lodge.
Yeah.
And so I looked around to see what people were doing, and in my mind's eye, I kind of one-upped what I was seeing out there, and so I didn't want to have to take down our safari-style tents during the winter, and so they've got a tin roof over them that's supported by aspen logs. They have a wood floor as the floor. They've got an interior wall in the back of them that separates the bedroom from the bathroom. In the bedroom, there's a queen-size leather pull-out couch, radiant fireplace, wardrobe for your clothes and etc. A small refrigerator, and in the bathroom, and not least of all is our Beauty Rest Black mattresses and luxury sleeping accommodations in each of them. Whether they're in those in our safari tents, the sleeping accommodations can be either a king bed or 2 extra long twins.
Okay.
So that's how we have set those up. All the mattresses are Beauty Rest Blacks. And in the bathroom, we have a pedestal sink and a commode and a glassed-in walk-in shower. All of the material for that is reclaimed.
I think it's hard for people to imagine it, so kind of want to explain to people, like, these are guide tents. These are big canvas guide tents that are on steroids. Like, basically, they have bathrooms in them. They have couches in them. They're they're luxury accommodations. So they're very kind of unique and special that way.
The only thing tent about them is the canvas walls.
Right.
But the other aspect of them is they're literally right on the edge of the water. There's 10 feet maximum. On one side of them is the outlet channel for our 1 acre pond, which is right out the back, and a side channel of the East Rosebud runs about 10 or 15 feet off the front of the deck. And they all come, and you have a nice big deck, covered deck on them, with Adirondack chairs on them, and a place to recline. Now, one thing I do want to mention is both for the suites in the lodge and for the glamping cabins, the common areas in the lodge are an extension of your sleeping accommodation. So if the lower level of the lodge is and the great room I'm sitting next to here is an extension of your sleeping accommodations, whether you're in the glamping cabins or whether you're in the lodge suites. And we have game room and bar set up in the rec barn, which is about 200 feet away from the lodge, where you have shuffleboard, pool, foosball, that type of stuff over there, and then a full bar. And off the back of the lodge is I'm not going to call it a dining area. The lower the level of the lodge has dining capacities and tables and different things like that. But on the back of the lodge is a covered pergola area where the hot tub and outdoor fire pit and furniture and stuff is established. And we do dinner out there. One thing we like to do is instead of having dinner and breakfast at the same place every single day, we like to break it up, weather dependent, obviously, and have people out under the pergola at night for dinner, or generally hot breakfast as we're getting ready for the day and stuff is downstairs in the dining area of the lodge. But and then also, if we have a little larger group, typically 8 or more, we'll have live music and entertainment over at the rec barn, that type of thing. So,
wow. Real quick, let's just talk. Since we're talking about dining, let's talk about the meals. You have amazing food. In addition to all this other amazing stuff, people are served amazing meals. Well, at the lodge. Tell us just a little bit about it and kind of the thought behind it. I know you're heavy into cuisine, and you guys put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, we kind of cut our teeth on hospitality dining, if you will, with our years of doing destination weddings. And and by happenstance, my wife and I both love to cook. That was one of the things that keeps us together and sane all these years is cooking together. A nice quiet meal will 2 hours and a glass of wine, and we both truly enjoy that. And so it's been an easy thing for us to take on. We really try and make a special effort where that's concerned. We both enjoy traveling in the off season and the experience of having a well prepared and served meal, and we try and carry that through to our guests. Whether it's a tomahawk steak, sides, or pork loin with blackberry sauce and all the fixings with it. But our repertoire is pretty wide. We're even doing some fresh seafood and stuff now. So we got a good source of billings for that. So once that came through, it kind of expanded our ability to have nice, fresh seafood, nice, fresh, prime cut beef, Wagyu on an occasion if we have the capability. So, and it's all locally sourced. So all of our food, vegetables, we try and use local sources.
Yeah, honestly, really incredible. And just to go along with the local, you guys also not all the time, but when it's appropriate and you have a lot of people at the lodge, you guys will bring in local music.
Oh yeah, I mean that's another thing that's been very well received. We have a couple of different groups. The one group I'm thinking of now is a couple of guys, but they've both been playing for 40 years, and some of the most consummate professionals that I've ever seen. Is very, very well received by the guests. And we have a couple of solo players that are just starting with us that we've seen perform at other venues, and been lucky enough that they're close enough to start playing here this year. So,
wow. Well,
it really adds another flavor to the dinner, and afterwards, it gives people, if they want to go and recreate over at the rec barn, and et cetera, they're welcome to. But they have, we try and do them close enough. If people are over there, we'll have the live music over there. If they're not over there, we'll have the live music generally here at the lodge, either underneath the entry portico or off the back patio under the pergola.
Wow. Lincoln, I have to say, I'm really impressed. I'm really, really impressed with what you've put together. You've definitely crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and have really put together a next level experience. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And been, like one of your guests said, he's fished all over the place, and I myself have been lucky enough to fish some really, really special places at some really special lodges, around the world. And what you have is right up there with the best of the best. And what I really appreciate about your lodge, and really excited about, our guests that we've got coming there this summer, is that just the thoughtfulness that you've put into this. It's not just about the fishing, it's about the entire experience, from the lodging, from the food. I mean, basically a day at your guys' place is really unlike any other fishing lodge, let alone a Montana fishing lodge. I mean, you have the experience. I think that everybody, when they close their eyes and envision fly fishing in Montana, you're providing that. You're providing big fish in a variety of different waters. You're providing an opportunity for people to test out different gear. Providing an opportunity for even seasoned anglers. I'd like to think I'm a pretty good caster, but I could always be better. And anytime I have an opportunity to be around a master caster, there's always things that I could be working on. So the fact that you're providing that for the beginner all the way to someone who is experienced, I think is incredible. And then just the way a person can end their day, sitting in a hot tub, playing shuffleboard. You can actually go fishing. If you're a diehard, after you're done with your steak, you can get back out on the water right behind the luxury cabins that you have. So it's really an amazing place. I can't wait to get out there. And I just can't tell you how much we appreciate having your lodge as part of our offering. We are unlike a lot of the booking agencies where we don't offer, hundreds of trips. We only offer, a boutique, a small amount of trips that are just the best of the best. And I would like to say that we're very honored to have your trip and lodge a part of our arsenal.
Well, it's been a great experience meeting you, Brian, and we're looking forward to it. We love this stuff. These small groups of fishermen that are, 100% across the board. Just they want to be here. They're loving life and taking advantage of what we have to offer here. It's something that my wife and I are truly love.
Well, we're already booking a bunch of trips out there, and we haven't even got this podcast out. So I guarantee once people really get to hear from you, the essence of the trip and what you've put together, we've got a lot of bookings coming your way. So look forward to an excellent summer, and really appreciate you taking some time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on at the lodge there, so I really appreciate you taking some time to get on the podcast and tell us a little bit about that special place you've created.
I appreciate you saying so, Brian. Definitely, the winter is project season around here, so
Yeah,
it's busy.
we call those Cadillac problems. Lincoln, thanks again.
So, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.